I got a problem.
Got a main B bus on a fault.
No. Okay. We got more than a problem. Okay, listen, you guys. Flight for us to...
Once the violence of the launch was over, Apollo 13 settled into routine. The crew ate, checked systems, floated through the spacecraft, and talked to Houston through one voice. Capcom, astronaut to astronaut.
Roger, spacecraft's in real good shape as far as we're concerned, Jim. We're aboard the Cheers down here.
The impossible had become an average workday. On their second night, a master alarm woke all three of the men. Lovell reported it to Capcom the next morning.
Yeah, it might be interesting that just after we went to sleep last night, we got a master alarm, and it really scared us. And we were all over the cockpit like a wet noodle.
Sorry it wasn't something more significant.
For everyone on the ground, it still looked like just another lunar mission. But buried deep inside the service module, hidden behind panels, oxygen plumbing, and electrical systems, something was already very wrong.
Guys, we forgot. We'd like to hear what the news is.
Okay, there's not a whole lot to it. Let's start with sports. What the heck? The Astros survived 8-7. Time across the U. Uh-oh. Have you guys completed your income tax?
How do I apply for the extension?
Yeah, Joe, I gotta... Hey, that ain't too funny. Things kind of happen real fast down there, and I do need an extension. I didn't get mine filed. I'm really serious. Would you do?
You're breaking up the room down.
We appreciate that. There he is. Big Jack.
At 55 hours into the flight, a pressure warning trips the main master alarm. To clean up the readings, Houston asks the crew to stir the oxygen tanks, a routine request sent 27 seconds after the main alarm.
13, we've got one more item for you when you get a chance. We'd like you to stir up your cryo tanks.
Inside each oxygen tank, small cryogenic fans stir the liquid oxygen so the quantity sensors can read it properly. When the fans begin to spin, power flows into wiring that had been burning quietly for weeks.
Guys, look at your O2 quantities, see if you see a big change.
In under a minute, voltage spikes ripped through the electrical system. Short circuits rippled outwards faster than any warning system could flag them. Inside Oxygen Tank 2, pressure began rising past its design limits. A master warning should have loudly cut through everything on board, but it never did.
Right, don't you got a page update? Well, why don't we read it up to them and that'll serve both purposes.
The hydrogen pressure warning earlier in the flight had silenced the system that would have announced the real danger. The safeguard had been completely masked by electrical noise. The ship was screaming, but nobody understood its language. At the same time, the crew hears a loud bang. The spacecraft shudders for a moment, and telemetry drops out for a few seconds. The accelerometers registered the force fractions of a second later. Something had just moved the entire spacecraft. Jim Lovell came over the loop calmly.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Okay. Stand by, I got a problem.
We've had a main B bus on a fault.
Roger, main B undervolt. Okay, stand by, 13, we're looking at it.
And we hit a pretty large bang associated with the caution and warning there.
It was the service module. The explosion came from the part carrying Odyssey's power, oxygen, and the machinery Apollo 13 needed to stay alive. The crew's computers restart, and telemetry data vanishes in front of Houston. New failures were appearing way faster than Houston could sort them. Tank 2 was gone, and when they turned to Tank 1 for help, they realized it was leaking too.
Yeah, that's just what you see. And it looks to me, looking out the hatch, that we are bending something.
crew thinks they're finished.
We are ready, something out into space.
Try to recount.
The fuel cells began dying in sequence, each one running down on whatever oxygen was still trapped in its lines. Buying a few more minutes before the command module, Odyssey started losing power. Houston watched the readings collapse in real time. The service module, the part of the spacecraft carrying all of it, was gone. The moon landing was over before anybody needed to say it. Odyssey was the only part of Apollo 13 that could survive re-entry, and if it died here, they did not have a way through Earth's atmosphere. Oxygen on Apollo 13 was power. The fuel cells that kept the spacecraft alive ran on it. Without oxygen, there was no electricity, and without electricity, there was nothing.
You got it?
Yeah, if you believe that N2 pressure, we blew a sphere.
Okay, flight, we got Omni Charlie and high bit ready.
Yeah, we might have lost fuel cell 1. And it looks like fuel cell 3 is gone too. Okay.
Apollo 13 had launched carrying a bomb, and now the men and mission control had to diagnose and reverse the damage manually, in the middle of space.
Power down your inverters, power down your battery relay bus, battery ties off, and pull your entry circuit breakers. Entry battery circuit breakers A, B, and C.
What do you got?
Okay, right now, Houston, the voltage is looking good.
As they diagnosed the issue, however, the voltages steadied for a few moments, but not because Odyssey was fixed. You see, Odyssey was running on its re-entry batteries, the power reserves sealed for the last minutes of the mission. These batteries can keep the crew alive for now, but if Houston spent them here, the crew could survive the accident only to die at Earth re-entry.
Well, let's get some
Yeah, we got a
if you got any better ideas.
main bus A undervolt now too, Sean.
Main A undervolt.
Okay, yeah. Fuel cell 1 is disconnected.
Houston had to make a decision. Either spend the future batteries to buy present time, or lose communication and function to the entire command module. Houston chose the present. They manually hard tie in entry battery A to keep the bus alive. This bought them some time to work the problem. The ground controllers could not be certain that the fuel cells had been disconnected or if they were simply malfunctioning. They spent 5 minutes trying to reconnect fuel cells to buses. In that time, Houston tightens its focus and begins collapsing a picture of what went wrong. Tank 2 was gone, and Tank 1 was leaking. And worst of all, even if the command module can be stabilized for a while, it cannot sustain 3 men long enough to reach Earth. Not even close.
It looks like O2 tank 1 pressure is just a hair over 200.
That's right. We confirm that, yeah.
We confirm that here, and it's slowly going to zero, and
Like
we're
the
starting to think
battery
about
on
LAM lifeboat.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking about too. Do you want me to do a quick T-52?
Houston and the crew simultaneously see the only doorway that can still be pried open. The lunar module, Aquarius. The machine built to take 2 men down to the moon is now the only spacecraft left with enough resources to keep the crew alive. But if you move too early into Aquarius, they burn through its supplies before reaching Earth. Move too late and the oxygen in Odyssey runs out first. Houston sees a very small window. On top of this, Aquarius was never meant to be powered up like this. Off schedule, under load, and in the middle of a crippled mission. And every minute after the explosion, the ship was drifting off course. Without a rocket burn, the re-entry corridor to Earth would be impossible to hit. But most concerningly to Houston is that the lunar module was built to land on the moon, not to navigate home. Its guidance system, the gimbal, had to be manually aligned to use its engine for burns back to Earth.
Another problem right now, Jack, I'm looking out the right window, and it's pretty dark out that window, but there are about 1,000 or so false stars out here from leftover from some of the debris. That's hard to discern what's real and not real.
Houston looked at this small window, looked at the clock, and realized that they had one chance at a complex move home. So they took it. The crew tied in batteries, powered systems, read angles, copied values, and moved over just 15 minutes before the command module's remaining oxygen margin disappeared entirely. And when they go to align it, in the silence of realignment, they couldn't steer, they couldn't aim their antennas, and they couldn't navigate through space. They were blindly drifting, unreachable. And no one on the ground could tell them if the next mistake would merely complicate the return or end everything completely. At 5840 GET, Aquarius came alive, and 2 hours and 46 minutes from the explosion, Apollo 13 had a lifeboat. Houston builds the next burn pad under impossible pressure. Flight controllers are reading angles back and forth, recalculating trajectories in a crisis that was moving faster than the math. In the simulators, the Apollo 14 backup crew runs burn sequences. At another console, the man who was supposed to fly Apollo 13, Ken Mattingly, runs power-up procedures.
Ken's been doing quite a bit of work on getting ready for entry.
Very good. Ken's back. He's a local expert on this now, so we'll turn you over to him, and he'll read it off.
Hello, Aquarius, Houston. How do you read?
Okay, very good, Ken.
Okay, let me take it from the top here. Just there might be some overlap, but to make sure we're all on the same signal.
He knew this ship better than anyone else. Just 3 days before launch, the man who had trained for years as Apollo 13's command module pilot was pulled from the crew. A doctor had found he'd been exposed to rubella. He runs the power-up procedures he built himself, looking for the minimum that would still be enough. The math is not one person's. It is the product of dozens of people who have not slept, running every scenario in their heads until they start seeing a path home.
Houston, Aquarius.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, we're just about there in pitch and in their middle gimbal angle, but that outer gimbal angle doesn't look like it's going the right way. I've tried both methods.
Your depth throttle will be 10% for 5 seconds, 40% for 21 seconds, and the remainder at full throttle. And for your information, this will put you in the water at 142 plus 47, over.
142 hours and 47 minutes. That is not a trajectory number. That is an arrival time. It is the first moment since the explosion that Houston stopped reading failures and started reading a tangible future. So Apollo 13 chooses, in the middle of a disaster that had taken every other choice away from them, to trust Houston's math with their lives.
To do this, we're going to plan to make a free return maneuver of 16 feet per second at 61 hours.
Well, we'll give it a try, Jack, if that's all we got. That's a 16 foot per second dip burn in 37 minutes.
Roger, we're working up a pad for it, but we'd want to know what you think about doing it at that time.
Well, we'll do it. Can you give us a little bit more time?
Okay, Jim, we'd like to get a suggested time from you. We can figure out a free return maneuver for any time you want to give us, so if you'll give us the time you'd like.
At 61 hours and 30 minutes, they lit the engine. For the first time since the explosion, Mission Control was no longer speaking in failures. As they approach closer to the moon, the crew begins to point out lunar landmarks, familiar names from a mission that no longer existed.
Well, there's the old Terminator at
for tomorrow.
Yeah, there's the Lamires and the Almonte. They're not. See them right over the edge.
I can't for the life of me figure out what that dark stuff is.
Did you look at it, Jake? It's me. And I didn't recall one being in that part of the sky. It's weird. Like two black clouds.
Well,
They start taking pictures, not for any specific scientific reason, but because they're human, and the dream was still real enough to photograph even as they passed it.
Okay, we've got the consumables info to get the midcourse, and what else did you have? Given that communication.
Jim Lovell looked out the window at what was drifting alongside of them. Not stars, not the moon, but debris. He watched pieces of his spacecraft drift through the dark, silver fragments of a ship that once was, catching the reflected light of the moon below them. He was 190 miles above the surface of the moon, the exact altitude that a landing approach begins. The surface that he had spent years preparing to walk on was beneath him now, closer than it had ever been. And he was watching pieces of the ship that were supposed to take him there drift past in the dark instead.
We've been landing about 2 hours ago, huh? You out there, Jack.
At 79 hours, 28 minutes, as Apollo 13 passes behind the moon, in the dark shadow of the magical world they once came to explore, they light the engine that might bring them home instead. This burn was 81 feet per second, shrinking its entry time from a 152-hour entry to a precise 142-hour entry, creating a landing in the Pacific Ocean instead. The moon stayed in the window the entire time, just close enough to see its beauty, but far too late to explore it. The PAO transcript records the crew's comments as they passed behind the moon and lost radio contact for the first time. In the shadow of the moon, with every source of light pollution blocked, the stars appeared raw, like nowhere else on Earth or in orbit.
okay, remind you of spare flashlight. You got one there, okay. Okay. Something's all gone down. Yeah, look at those stars. Houston.
Aquarius had to stay alive long enough to make the trip home, and it was starting to show how thin that margin really was. The spacecraft needed to keep rolling to control how sunlight heated it. This is called the barbecue roll.
People here in Mission Control Center are looking at ways of setting up some sort of scheme for passive thermal control or barbecue mode of thermal balance for the spacecraft.
Okay, Jim, and looks like what we have to do is, in order to maintain even heating, we just have to yaw the whole machine about 90 degrees per hour in increments.
The attitude was not where anyone wanted it. On average, it was rotating much faster than normal. Aquarius was delicate now. A little too much heat, water loss, or power loss all mattered. At 106 hours into the mission, the LM's lithium hydroxide canisters, the filters that scrubbed carbon dioxide from the air, had roughly 6 hours left in them. There were plenty of canisters in the command module, but they were geometrically incompatible with each other. The lunar module used round canisters, and the command module used square ones. In any other context, this would be a minor procurement problem, but now it was a death sentence.
Okay, and Jack, my only other concern now is the CO2 rise of the spacecraft. I guess you're keeping a handle on that?
That's affirmed, Jim. We have you up to 10.6 now, and we're willing to go a little higher on that. We have...
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. I just want to make sure that you... are We just don't want to go to sleep here and forget about the line field too.
Roger, we're watching it for you. We have it here. It's now 10.7, and we have a medical go to 15 millimeters.
That's the new one. There's the new first flare.
Okay, Jim, we've got 1 more hour on the primary cartridge and 6 or 7 hours on the secondary.
Okay, fine. There's a spare primary cartridge back there too, isn't it? So that's good for another how long?
Engineers on the ground pulled out identical hardware, spread it across a table in mission control, and started building. They were going to make a manual adapter. They needed to build a procedure that they could read back to the 3 exhausted men, one that could work first try.
Okay, Jim, the way I thought it might be best to do it would be to have you gather the equipment and let us talk you through the procedure while you do it. Maybe you could give Jack the headset and...
Yeah, the equipment, listen, I'll just get it and tell it to him like just everyone else.
Okay, I think the equipment you'll need will be 2 command module lithium hydroxide canisters, a roll of the gray tape, the 2 LCGs because we're going to use the bags from the LCGs, and one LEM cue card, one of the cardboard cue cards, which you will cut off about an inch and a half out from the rings. I think that's all we'll need. Over. Aquarius Houston, go ahead.
We have gathered the material, and I can put Jack on the headset and...
Well, why don't you put him on the headset, Jim, and I'll read it out to him.
Okay. Okay, Joe.
Okay, Jack, did anybody ever tell you that you got a 60-day extension on your income tax?
Yeah, I think somebody said that when you're out of your country, you get a 60-day extension.
Okay, I'm ready to start into the procedure.
The crew built the adapter in a dark spacecraft at 38 degrees, following Capcom line by line. 32 hours. The improvised adapter bought them 32 hours of breathable air, assembled from a bag, a card, and a roll of tape, read up from a table in Houston who had just spent the last hour learning how to make it.
Okay, I'm just questioning how's our litho cartridge set up, how does it appear to be working down there?
We are reading 0.2 on our CO2 sensor, and we're all delighted. It seems to be working fine.
Oh, that is great.
The lunar module is using too much water to cool itself down. At the rate they were going, Aquarius would run out of cooling and drinking water far too early. So Houston cuts deeper, shutting down power in the lunar module. To have enough water to survive the trip home, the men are going to have to endure some much colder temperatures. Once the major burns are behind them, the road ahead becomes clear. Apollo 13 isn't really returning so much as it's enduring. The cabin grew damp. Condensation gathered on walls, on instrument panels, and on the windows. The crew moved less, spoke only when needed, and left most systems dormant. Houston tracked all of the amp hours, pounds of water, oxygen, CO2 margins, checklist timings, and heart rates down to the wire. The numbers were bleak, but they were stable enough to work with.
Now I will give you a rundown on consumables. Okay, in the LEM, you have 1,498 amp hours. Over 61 hours, you have 215, that is 215 pounds of water usable. That would average out over 61 hours to 3.5 pounds per hour available. Okay, oxygen. You have remaining 44 pounds in the LEM at a usage rate of 0.36 pounds per hour. That leaves you 120 or 120 hours of oxygen. Okay, and just a question. Be interesting to hear from Jack to see if he thinks that main B bus is good. If he has any idea of whether it's good or not, this would influence our steps in the future. We'll explain further later on.
Okay.
Deke says get a night's sleep. He says you've been working hard and you gotta relax a little bit and be ready for tomorrow.
The cold got into everything. The command module held 38 degrees Fahrenheit. Not during the coldest stretch, that was the average. Condensation had collected on every surface, and Mission Control worried that the water would short out the electrical systems. It was so cold in the lunar module that the men realized even their food is being affected.
I'm going to know that interested in crew systems people. Tell them that they don't have to bother putting the refrigerator on board. I just went out to the hot guys to send food.
Okay, we copy that, Jim.
Every hour was spent the same. Check the systems, report them, and reduce everything that was not essential to zero. And all the while, Houston kept rewriting the future. They worked out a non-standard procedure to use lunar module battery power to recharge the command module's batteries A and B. It was never meant to be done that way, but it worked. Every hour Mission Control bought them was margin. Margin was what let a ship designed for 2 men carry 3. Margin was what let batteries built for re-entry power a 90-hour return. Aquarius had 41 and a half hours of electrical power remaining. She had been asked to survive 86. But then Houston found something small. By squeezing just enough amps together, they could slide just enough power to warm the cabin.
Go ahead, Houston. Okay, Skipper, we figured out a way for you to keep warm. We decided to start powering you up now. And what we want you to do is take your...
When the window heaters came on, there was frost on the glass. Frost in the middle of space. The lunar module was running in Vox mode, an open microphone that was transmitting everything the crew said. Most of what they said was garbled, system checks and logistics. But then, from somewhere in the static, Swigert was exhausted. By now, the mission had worked itself deep into the crew's bodies. Their heart rates ran higher than average, and they lost weight to the extreme cold and the hours of work. Fred Hayes was running a fever in the 38-degree spacecraft. Lovell had lost 14 pounds, and Jack Swigert, the last-minute replacement, lost 7 pounds. In the simulators, someone had been running the power-up sequence for days, not because he was assigned to, but because he knew this spacecraft, its tolerances, its margins, exactly how little it needed to awake from the dead. He had stripped the procedure down to the minimum draw and built it line by line.
Hello, Aquarius, Houston. How do you read?
Okay, very good, Ken.
Ken Mattingly, the man who watched this spacecraft leave without him, began reading it home.
Okay, let me take it from the top here. Just there might be some overlap, but to make sure we're all on the same signal.
At 105 hours and 18 minutes, the spacecraft made another small burn, just 7.8 feet per second. Tiny, but lowering the Earth perigee from 87 miles to 21. And at 137 hours and 40 minutes, using the lunar module's RCS thrusters, the crew made a final 3.2 foot per second correction to put Odyssey at the center of its re-entry corridor. That fourth correction was the last tightening of the rope. By then, Apollo 13 was not trying to do anything grand. They were just trying to be exact. The electrical umbilical between the two spacecraft normally carried power from the command module to the lunar module.
Okay, Jack, one question here. If we have any problem setting up this LEM power to the CSM, is the quickest way to get out of it return to the normal configuration and proceed?
Yeah, we can do that.
I would like to give one quick step in case Jim reports some sort of problem for us to get out of it quickly. Okay, we would like to know whether this procedure has been tried and whether it's been found to be okay and no danger of shorting out any of our batteries or anything that we have on board the LEM now.
Okay, Jack, this procedure has not been tried out as such. However, the hardware paths through which the current flows are the same ones which we used during trans-lunar trajectory. Jack, of course, the reason for all this is that we'll see we're 20 amp hours short on one of the entry batteries, and we've got to juice that up to get you home with.
But Mission Control had reversed it. Lunar module batteries running backwards through a connection that was never designed to run it this way. Recharge the command module's re-entry batteries. Nobody had written a procedure for this. They wrote it on the way home.
Or essentially fully charged. Battery A is down about 20 amp hours, and the plan is to replace the energy in the command module, battery A, with electrical energy from the lunar module.
Okay, Jack, one question here. If we transfer power like this, we're not going to cut it short on power remaining to get the entry interface, are we? Just power remaining?
That's a negative, Jack.
By 140 hours, Earth is growing in the windows. But the crew still isn't safe. The lunar module had kept them alive. Now they had to start tearing that system down, because Aquarius could not bring them through Earth's atmosphere. Only Odyssey could do that. And Odyssey had been cold, powered down, and wounded since the explosion. No one knew exactly what still worked inside of it. So in Houston, the job became brutally specific. Strip the startup down, test it, run it again, cut every unnecessary draw, and build a re-entry power-up sequence that asks the command module to do only what it absolutely has to.
Okay, Jim, we're getting about 9 minutes from the commencement of command module power-up, and we wanted to just mention to you for Jack's benefit that although the batteries are looking real good, in case they're cool and have a little difficulty hacking the load just at first, we'd like them to monitor main bus voltage.
Okay, I think you're also monitoring main bus voltage.
Negative, not in the command module at this time, because we don't call up telemetry until a little bit later on.
So that's right, I forgot. Okay, I will tell them. Go ahead.
Okay, your go to start powering up the command module.
Righto, we're starting now.
Okay.
Apollo Control Houston, 140 hours, 34 minutes now into the flight. We're presently in the process of updating the command module computer, the CMC now in program 27.
The backup crew ran the sequence over and over in simulators on the ground. There would be no second try. Houston reads up the schedule they have spent days refining. The plan was to use what little power remained in Aquarius to help wake Odyssey up without spending the command module batteries it would need for re-entry. That meant the lunar module had to stay attached a bit longer than normal. Even now, they were still leaning on the lifeboat. But before they could commit to the re-entry, they had to first get rid of the plague, the service module.
A goodly gathering of the astronaut corps in the Mission Control Center now.
Can we do it at any time, Joe?
I think so, but let me check. Find out.
Lovell uses the lunar module's thrusters to push the stack apart. Swigert fires the pyros from inside the command module. Then they back away carefully, making sure the damaged service module doesn't drift back into them.
You're looking good on the ground, Odyssey. Fine, I'd like to confirm if you want to go back to the...
Here, bid, Jack.
As the service module rotated away into space, the crew saw what the explosion had actually done.
And there's one whole side of that spacecraft missing.
Is that right?
Debris hung from the opening, blown out almost from the base to the engine, a dark brown streak across the metal where the explosion had traveled.
Right by the, look out there, right by the high gate antenna, the whole panel is blown out, almost from the base to the engine.
Copy that.
Yeah, it looks like it got to the SPS bells.
Okay, these through with the photos. You think the SPS engine bell, huh?
Looks like right.
Okay.
It's really a mess.
Okay, Jim, we'd like you to get some pictures, but we want you to conserve RCS. Don't make unnecessary maneuvers. Was the bell deformed on the outside, or just nicked, or what?
I think the explosion, from what I can see, Joe, had stained it. I don't know whether it did any actual deformation or not.
Okay.
Man, that's unbelievable.
Houston needed photos of it for more planning. They were still learning what kind of ship they were trying to bring home. Then Swigert went back to Odyssey. He began bringing the command module back to life far earlier than any normal procedure had ever intended. Main bus B and computer power. Only exactly what they needed, nothing more. The guidance platform had to be rebuilt. The state vector had to be checked, and the inertial reference had to be restored. Everything was deliberate now. But even at the final hour, the geometry does not cooperate. Houston tells the crew they cannot use the standard lunar module jettison attitude. The angles don't line up. They're going to have to do it manually. There's a pause. Then Capcom comes in casually.
Okay.
And mind out for gimbal lock.
We will.
If the guidance system lost its reference, if the gimbal, quote, locked, the crew would have to navigate re-entry by hand. That meant reading the angle of atmospheric entry by feel at 25,000 miles per hour through a corridor measured in fractions of a degree. Apollo 13 is finally lined up for Earth, but now it has to survive it. By now, the world was watching Apollo 13 on television. After everything that has happened, Apollo 13 was still one bad attitude away from losing the entire return.
Odyssey Houston, your Diski is doing all the right things. The GNN is go, over.
Okay, thank you. You have a good bedside manner, Joe.
Say again, Jack.
You have a good bedside manner.
That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said.
Capcom Joe Kerwin, in addition to being an astronaut, is also a medical doctor.
Sure wish I could go to the Fido party tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild one. Odyssey Houston, over.
Go ahead.
Okay, we just had one last time around the room, and everybody says you're looking great.
Thank you.
They begin to approach Earth's atmosphere at approximately 142 hours GET, and Aquarius detaches.
Okay, copy that. We got you there. Farewell, Aquarius, and we thank you.
It burns up in Earth's atmosphere.
You're looking good. We're real happy with the trajectory, and a minute ago we just lost contact with your friend Aquarius.
Where did you go?
Oh, I know. She's up there somewhere.
Now, there was only Odyssey. At about 142 hours ground elapsed time, Apollo 13 hits the atmosphere. A plasma sheath forms around the command module, creating a radio blackout between Houston and the crew. The expected time of blackout was 3 minutes. They called again 3 minutes later, and got nothing.
Apollo 13 should be out of blackout at this time.
Then after 4 minutes, nothing.
Odyssey Houston, standing by, over.
5, nothing. They called again and again. Silence. Again, silence. Mission Control's retro officer knew the math very well. He knew 6 minutes was technically possible. He also knew that if the heat shield had failed, 6 minutes was the furthest thing they'd ever hear. Houston calls again at 6 minutes. Silence.
Odyssey Houston, standing by, over.
The controllers, who had not left their consoles for days, sat in the quiet and waited. The days of math had been handed to the atmosphere, and all that remained was faith.
Okay, so
Okay, we read you, Jack.
We show you on the main. It really looks great.
The chutes opened. On the screens in Mission Control, they saw them. 3 orange and white canopies over the Pacific, exactly where the math said they would be. The command module hits the water, and recovery ship USS Iwo Jima was already in the area to pick them up. Apollo 13 had made it home safely, and Jack Swigert made it back with 2 months to file his taxes.